This week's question about the greatest moral challenge actually raises the question about the word moral itself, about whether we can even agree on what moral means, and perhaps even whether we should just set aside the word moral in the end if nobody can agree on what the word moral means. Well, I disagree with the idea of saying that we should get rid of the word moral. Moral is just a term that is about how people are going about deciding what is good or bad, what is right or wrong. The thing is that in our world, a pluralistic world where people have all kinds of beliefs, and particularly beliefs that determine for them how to even interpret the world, including how to think about what is good, what is bad, what is right, what is wrong, it should not be a surprise to us that we have the moral challenge of having people to even agree on what counts as moral. We are certainly in a time where it's truly postmodern. Postmodern just in this sense of when you're thinking about what is true and what is right, there are a lot of things that people are basically saying, how can I decide that for myself? And sometimes even when they're saying they decide it for themselves, they're not always deciding it the same way. It might depend upon what the issue is and about what their loyalties are to a particular thing. Those types of factors may determine how someone's deciding what counts as good or bad, right or wrong, what is moral. For the Christian, it should not be a surprise that we're in a moral conundrum or a world of moral chaos sometimes, because we're in a world where sin is real. And what does sin do? Sin distorts reality. That's one of the things that it does. And if it distorts reality, then we should not be surprised that we can't arrive at a kind of space in our society where everyone agrees on what counts as moral. What the Christian can do in this world where there's no agreement on moral is say, I am a person who believes that there is a God who has created all this and who has also revealed himself to us, and who at least gives us a baseline about what moral is, because God defines for us what is good or bad, what is right or wrong. And God does that by telling us specific things. There are commands in the Bible, but also what the Bible does is it gives us ways of thinking about how to go about our life. If you think about something like the book of Proverbs, the book of Proverbs isn't telling you that if you always do A, you will always get B. It is telling you that if you do A, you tend to get B. In other words, it's telling us to take a path of wisdom. And I use that as an example just to say that the Bible doesn't talk about nuclear weapons. The Bible doesn't talk about whether or not you should go to the movies or not, or other kinds of questions that Christians have asked about over the years about in our society, should we do one thing or should we do another? But what it does give us, it gives us principles. And so the point is that while you have commands from the Bible, you also have a lot of principles that we get as well. And those principles give us, I would say, a trajectory towards pursuing what we can call a moral life, a life where we are making judgments about what is good or bad, what is right or wrong. And as I mentioned about sin, if the Bible also tells us about sin, even though we know as Christians we are going about the pursuit of a life where we want to do things that are more right than wrong, that are good rather than bad, we also know that we are doing it in a world where we really should not expect there to be moral agreement or agreement about what is moral. There's always going to be people who say, I've got a different idea of what counts as moral. And so what does this all mean in the end? In the end, it means this. The Christian should be asking, what does it mean for me to live a moral life out of my convictions as a Christian? And how is that what is guiding me? And how is that guiding me in a world where I know there's going to be a lot of disagreement about morality? And the fact that there's disagreement doesn't mean we can't ever be persuasive. It just helps us to understand that it's definitely going to be complicated. So let's put it this way. Yes, there's disagreement about what moral means, but disagreement doesn't mean that we can't ever be persuasive. And disagreement doesn't mean that we should stop pursuing what it means as Christians to be the most moral people that we can be.